Captain Lee Dae-ho floated in the command chair of the UES Defiant Dawn, watching the stars drift past through the main viewing screen. The ship moved quietly through the empty space at the edge of Earth's solar system. It was just another routine patrol, the kind they had done hundreds of times before. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings from the long-range sensors," said Kim Soo-jin from her position at the tactical station. Her fingers danced across the control panel as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. Dae-ho pushed himself upright in his chair. After 15 years in space, he had learned to pay attention when his crew said something was strange. "What kind of readings?" "I'm not sure. It looks like electromagnetic signals, but they're not coming from any known human source. And they're very far away." Soo-jin frowned at her screen. "The computer says they're coming from the direction of Kepler 442. "That's over 1,000 light-years from here," said Park Jin-woo, the chief engineer. He looked up from his maintenance reports with a puzzled expression. "No way we should be picking up anything from that far out." Dae-ho felt a small chill run down his spine. In all his years exploring space, truly unknown signals were rare. Most of what they found was either human in origin or natural cosmic background noise. "Choi Bo-ra, can you clean up that signal?" The communications officer nodded and began working at her station. Bo-ra was the best signal analyst in the fleet, able to pull meaning from the faintest whispers of radio waves. "Give me a few minutes." "Captain, whatever this is, it's very weak and heavily distorted." The bridge fell quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Dae-ho watched the stars and tried to push down the growing feeling that something was very wrong. The Defiant Dawn was humanity's most advanced exploration ship, equipped with sensors that could detect a flashlight from 10 star systems away. If they were picking up signals from Kepler 442, those signals had to be incredibly powerful to travel such a distance. "Got something?" Bo-ra said suddenly. Her voice was tight with excitement and fear. "Captain, you need to hear this." The bridge speakers crackled to life with a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. It started as a low, musical tone that seemed to rise and fall like ocean waves. Then came other sounds, clicking, whistling, harmonics that made the hair on Dae-ho's arms stand up. It was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and clearly not human. "Is that?" Soo-jin started to ask. "Alien," Dae-ho finished. "That's an alien transmission." The sound continued for almost a minute before fading. Back to static. Bo-ra worked frantically at her controls, trying to capture every bit of data. "There's more coming in, Captain. Multiple sources, and the AI translation system is going crazy trying to make sense of it." "How long until we have a translation?" Dae-ho asked. "Hours, maybe days. The computer has never seen anything like this before. It's having to build the translation protocols from scratch." Bo-ra looked up from her station with wide eyes. "But Captain, there's something else. The emotional analysis software is picking up something clear in these signals." "What?" "Fear, desperation. These aren't exploration signals or greetings. These are distress calls." The bridge fell silent again. Dae-ho felt his stomach tighten. First contact with alien life was supposed to be humanity's greatest moment. Instead, they were listening to aliens crying for help. "Keep working on the translation," he ordered, "and expand the sensor sweep. I want to know if there are more signals out there." For the next 6 hours, the crew of the Defiant Dawn worked without rest. More signals came in from different directions, all carrying the same emotional weight of desperation. The ship's AI slowly began to piece together fragments of meaning from the alien languages. Finally, Bo-ra called the senior officers to the communications station. Her face was pale and her hands shook slightly as she activated the playback. "The AI has managed to translate parts of several messages," she said. "They're all different languages, but the meaning is similar. Listen to this." The speakers came, alive with a mechanical voice speaking in perfect English, though the words it spoke chilled everyone who heard them. "Emergency transmission to any listening worlds. Our civilization is dying. The ancient enemy has returned from the deep void. They consume everything in their path. Our fleets are broken. Our worlds burn. We have nowhere left to run. Please, if anyone receives this message, anyone at all, we beg for help. The devourers are coming, and death follows in their wake." The message ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "There are dozens of these," Bo-ra whispered. "All from different species, different star systems. They're all running from something, called the Devourers. Jin Wu was the first to speak. How far are these signals coming from? The closest is about 800 light-years. The farthest is over 2,000. Bora pulled up a star map showing the sources of the signals. Look at the pattern. The map showed a rough sphere of distress calls, all concentrated in one region of space. But what made Daeho's blood run cold was the direction the signals were coming from. The sphere was moving, and its path led directly toward Earth's galaxy. Captain, Sujin said quietly, if these Devourers are moving at even a fraction of light speed, and they're following the same path as these refugees, they'll reach our galaxy in less than 2 years, Daeho finished. The implications hit everyone at once. Humanity had just discovered they were not alone in the universe. But that discovery came with the news that something was destroying entire civilizations and heading their way. Get me a secure channel to Earth Command, Daeho ordered. Priority, Alpha, and prepare a complete data package of everything we've recorded. As Bora worked to establish the connection, Daeho stared at the star map. Dozens of alien species were fleeing across hundreds of light-years, abandoning their homes to escape something so terrible they called it simply the Devourers. And now Earth stood directly in the path of whatever was chasing them. The communication channel opened, and Admiral Song Hai-jin's face appeared on the main screen. The head of Earth's Defense Council looked tired, as she always did these days, but her eyes sharpened when she saw Daeho's expression. Captain Lee, your message said this was urgent. What have you found? Daeho took a deep breath. Admiral, we've made first contact with alien life, multiple species, and they're all running for their lives from something that's heading straight toward Earth. Admiral Song's face went very still. Show me everything. As the data transfer began, Daeho looked back at the star map. Somewhere out there, entire civilizations were dying. Somewhere out there, an ancient enemy was consuming worlds. And somewhere out there, the last hope of countless species was flying through the void, crying for help that might never come. But as he watched Admiral Song's face harden with determination, Daeho began to think that maybe, just maybe, help was exactly what they were going to get. Admiral Song Hae-jin stood in the emergency meeting room deep beneath Earth Defense Command. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth, their faces lit by the glow of holographic displays showing the alien distress signals. The room buzzed with worried voices and the sound of data tablets being shuffled. This is madness, said President Chen of the Pacific Alliance. We don't even know if these aliens are telling the truth. This could be some kind of trap. A trap that spans 2,000 light-years and involves dozens of different species? Admiral Song asked. The probability analysis shows less than a 1% chance of deception. Minister Petrov from the European Federation leaned forward. Even if it's real, what can we do? Our fleet has maybe 300 ships total. These aliens are talking about an enemy that destroys entire civilizations. Admiral Song touched a control, and the hologram changed to show Earth's current military assets. The numbers were not impressive compared to what they were facing, but Song had not become the head of Earth's defense by giving up when things looked impossible. We have advantages these aliens don't, she said. We have people they've never heard of, people who have won wars that couldn't be won. She touched another control, and new images appeared. Photos of men and women in military uniforms, their faces showing the hard lines that came from making impossible choices. Fleet Admiral Yoon Tai-sung ended the Mars Colonial Rebellion with half the ships and a quarter of the troops anyone thought possible. He's been living in a mountain cabin for 5 years, but yesterday I sent a message asking him to come back. He said yes. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the name Yoon Tai-sung. The man was a legend. Commander Jang Mi-young, the Void Fox. She saved 3 million people on Europa when the Titan crisis hit. She's been in exile on Ganymede, but she's already on her way back to Earth. More murmurs around the table. Mi-young's reputation was almost mythical among spacers. General Ko Sung-ho, the man who held the line at New Stalingrad against impossible odds. He's been in cryo-sleep for 10 years, waiting for the war that would need him most. I had him. Awakened this morning. Song looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. She could see fear there, but also something else. Hope. These are our legends, she said. People who have faced the impossible and won. If anyone can figure out how to help these aliens and protect Earth, it's them. President Chen shook his head. Even with our best commanders, we don't have enough ships. We'd need to multiply our fleet by 10 just to have a chance. Then we build more ships, Song said simply. Every shipyard on Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Every orbital platform. We convert civilian ships, mining vessels, cargo haulers. We build until we have the fleet we need. The cost would be enormous, Minister Petrov protested. The cost of doing nothing would be higher, Song replied. Much higher. While Earth's leaders argued about resources and budgets, Captain Lee Dae-ho was already moving toward the source of the alien signals. His small task force of 5 ships had been reinforced with 2 more exploration vessels and ordered to make contact with the fleeing aliens. The journey took them through hyperspace routes that had never been mapped, following the trail of distress, signals like breadcrumbs through the dark. When they finally dropped back into normal space near the Kepler 442 system, what they found took their breath away. Ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all fleeing in the same direction. They were like nothing humanity had ever imagined. Some looked like living creatures made of crystal and light. Others appeared to be grown rather than built, their hulls covered in what looked like scales or bark. Still others defied description, entirely, their shapes seeming to shift and change as they moved. "Captain," Kim Soo-jin called from the tactical station, "we're being scanned. Multiple sources. They know we're here. Open a channel," Dae-ho ordered. "All frequencies." Choi Bo-ra worked at her controls, then nodded. "Channel open, sir. This is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the Earth ship Defiant Dawn. We received your distress signals. We're here to help." The response came immediately, but in the musical tones of an alien language. The ship's AI worked for several minutes before providing a translation. "You are from a primitive system. Your technology is crude. How can you help when our advanced fleets have failed?" Dae-ho smiled grimly. He had expected this reaction. "Maybe because we're primitive. Maybe because we think differently. Give us a chance." The alien response took longer this time. When it came, the tone had changed. "3 of our refugee ships are under attack by Devourer scouts, 2 light hours from your position. If you truly wish to help, save them." Soo-jin looked up from her tactical display. "Captain, I'm reading the engagement. 3 large alien ships being pursued by smaller craft. The aliens are losing. All ships, maximum speed," Dae-ho ordered. "Battle stations." The small Earth fleet raced through space toward the battle. As they got closer, they could see the alien refugee ships, massive, beautiful vessels that looked like flying cities. The pursuing Devourer scouts were smaller but deadly, their dark hulls seeming to absorb light as they fired weapons that tore chunks from the refugee ships. "They're using standard pursuit tactics," Soo-jin observed. "Staying behind their targets, hitting the engines." "Then we don't do standard," Dae-ho said. "All ships execute Crazy Ivan maneuver. Come at them from below and above simultaneously." The Earth ships split formation and attacked from angles the Devourers didn't expect. Human weapons were less advanced than alien technology, but they were used in ways the enemy had never seen. The Devourers, programmed for logical responses, couldn't adapt fast enough to human unpredictability. In 15 minutes, the engagement was over. All 3 Devourer scouts were destroyed, and the refugee ships were safe. The alien response came immediately. "Impossible. Those scouts had destroyed 12 of our warships. How did you defeat them so easily?" "We didn't think about it," Dae-ho replied. "We just did what felt right." There was a long pause. Then, Perhaps we have much to learn from each other. Will you come aboard our ships? There are others you should meet." As the Defiant Dawn docked with the massive alien vessel, Dae-ho felt history changing around him. Humanity was about to meet its first aliens, not as conquerors or conquered, but as allies against a common enemy. Back on Earth, Admiral Song received the report of successful first contact with grim satisfaction. The easy part was over. Now came the hard work of building an impossible fleet to fight an impossible war. But as she looked at the photos of Earth's legends returning from retirement and exile, she began to believe it might actually be possible. Humanity had always been good at impossible things. The orbital shipyards around Earth had never seen anything like it. Where once there had been a few dozen construction bays building cargo ships and passenger liners, now there were hundreds of platforms working day and night. Sparks flew through space as welders attached weapon systems to mining ships. Luxury cruise vessels were being gutted and rebuilt as medical frigates. Even old museum pieces were being dragged out of storage and fitted with modern weapons. Fleet Admiral Yun Tai-sung floated in the observation deck of the primary shipyard, watching the controlled chaos below. His weathered face showed no emotion, but inside he felt something he had not experienced in years. Hope mixed with terror. The fleet taking shape before him was impossible by every military standard he knew, but it was also exactly what they needed. "Admiral, the Prometheus prototype is ready for testing," said Captain Nam Woo-jin, approaching with a datapad in his hand. Nam had been put in charge of what everyone called the Resurrection Protocol, the program that turned old warships into modern weapons platforms. "Show me," Yoon said. They took a shuttle to the massive carrier that hung like a sleeping giant among the construction platforms. The Prometheus was unlike any ship ever built. Its hull was covered with manufacturing bays that could build fighter craft while the ship was in battle. Alien technology had made it possible, but human engineering had made it practical. "We can produce one fighter every 3 minutes during combat," Nam explained as they toured the ship. "The raw materials are stored in these compartments, and the alien matter converters can turn them into finished spacecraft faster than our pilots can launch them." Yoon nodded slowly. "And if the ship takes damage?" "The manufacturing bays are designed to keep working even if half the ship is destroyed. As long as we have power and materials, we keep building fighters." It was insane. It was brilliant. It was exactly the kind of thinking they needed. Across the shipyard, Commander Jang Mi-young was testing her own impossible creation. The stealth frigate Silent Thunder looked like nothing special from the outside, but its hull contained technology that had never been tried before. Alien phase shift generators combined with human ECM systems created a ship that could become invisible to almost any sensor. "Initiating phase shift," Mi-young said from the bridge of the Silent Thunder. Around them, the ship began to shimmer like heat waves on a summer day. "All stations report status. Sensors show we're invisible to everything except close range. Visual," reported her tactical officer, "and even that's distorted." "Good. Take us through the testing course." The Silent Thunder moved through a series of obstacles that would have been impossible for any normal ship. It phased through solid. Barriers appeared and disappeared from sensor screens and moved in ways that defied physics. Mi-young smiled grimly. The Devourers had never faced an enemy that could become a ghost. Dr. Han So-young worked in a different kind of laboratory, one filled with alien refugees instead of weapons. The crystalline beings called themselves the Luminary, and they had been fighting the Devourers for longer than human civilization had existed. Their leader, a being whose name translated roughly as bright thought across stars, had agreed to share their knowledge with humanity. "Your species thinks in ways we do not understand," Bright Thought said, its voice like the sound of wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "When the Devourers attack, we respond with logic and precision. You respond with chaos." "Is that bad?" So-young asked. "It may be exactly what we need. The Devourers are a collective intelligence. They think as one mind, plan as one mind, attack as one mind. They cannot understand individual creativity or unpredictable tactics." So-young made notes on her tablet. "What about the other species? The Vorthak?" Bright Thought's crystalline form shifted colors, showing what So-young had learned was the equivalent of a smile. "The Vorthak are warriors, but they follow ancient patterns of honor and strategy. The Devourers learned to counter their tactics centuries ago. But your people, you have no patterns. You do whatever works." In another part of the shipyard, Lieutenant Colonel Bae Yu-jin was discovering just how different alien warriors could be. The Vorthak stood nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and skin like flexible metal. Their leader, war singer Thak Moore, was demonstrating combat techniques that human Marines had never imagined. "Your species fights with tools and distance," Thak Moore said, his 4 arms moving in complex patterns as he wielded multiple weapons at once. "This is efficient, but sometimes efficiency is not enough. Sometimes you must fight with courage and fury." Yu-jin watched as the alien warrior destroyed 3 combat drones in a matter of seconds, moving faster than something that large should be able to move. "Can you teach our people to fight like that?" "Some, perhaps. But you should teach us your unpredictability. We have fought the Devourers many times, always with honor, always with traditional tactics. We always lose." The joint training sessions that followed were unlike anything in military history. Human Marines learned to fight alongside four-armed aliens who could bench press a hover tank. Vorthak warriors learned human concepts like guerrilla warfare and improvised explosives. Luminari strategists shared their ability to think in 4 dimensions, while humans taught them the value of gut instincts. Meanwhile, Park Jin-woo and his engineering teams worked around the clock to integrate alien technology with human ships. The results were often strange, but always effective. Human engines got boost systems that could triple their speed for short periods. Human weapons were upgraded with power systems that could punch through almost any armor. Human shields learned to bend and absorb energy in ways that amazed even the aliens. The hardest part, Jin-woo explained to Admiral Song during one of her inspection visits, is that alien technology isn't just more advanced. It thinks differently. Their computers don't use logic gates like ours. They use something more like intuition processors. Does it work? Song asked. Better than anything we've ever built. The new targeting systems can predict enemy movements by reading micro-changes in their ship's electromagnetic field. The navigation computers can find routes through hyperspace that our old systems said were impossible. But the real breakthrough came when Commander Shin Hai-wan made a discovery that changed everything. The intelligence officer had been studying recordings of Devourer attacks, looking for patterns and weaknesses. What she found was something the aliens had missed because they thought too logically. They're not random, she explained to the assembled command staff. Everyone thinks the Devourers attack without pattern, but they're wrong. Look at this. The holographic display showed dozens of battle recordings. At first they seemed to show chaos, Devourer ships attacking from all directions with no clear strategy. But as Hae-won highlighted certain movements, a pattern began to emerge. They always leave one escape route open, she said. Always. They want their enemies to run, because running enemies lead them to more targets. They're not trying to destroy every ship in battle. They're hurting. The implications hit everyone at once. The Devourers weren't just mindless destroyers. They were intelligent hunters using fear and desperation to find new civilizations to consume. If they're hurting, Admiral Yoon said slowly, then they can be out-herded. The final assembly of the human fleet took place over Mars. Ships came from every human world and station, creating the largest gathering of spacecraft in history. There were massive battleships bristling with weapons, sleek carriers launching clouds of fighters, transport ships converted into mobile hospitals, and hundreds of civilian vessels that had volunteered for support roles. Admiral Song stood on the bridge of the flagship Incheon, a legendary battleship that had been pulled out of mothballs and upgraded with the best alien technology. Around her, nearly 3,000 ships prepared for the journey to Kepler 442. All ships report ready, Captain Daeho reported. He had been promoted and given command of the advanced scout wing. The alien refugee fleet is waiting for us at the rally point. Song looked out at the impossible fleet humanity had built in just 6 months. Ships that should never have been able to fight together, crews that had never worked as a team, weapons and tactics that had never been tested in real combat. By every military standard, it was a disaster waiting to happen. Signal the fleet, she ordered. All ships jump to hyperspace. It's time to find out what legends can do. The space around Kepler 442 had become a graveyard of ships. Twisted metal and crystalline fragments drifted through the void, all that remained of the first wave of defenders who had tried to stop the Devourer fleet. Now the main enemy force hung in space like a dark storm cloud, over 10,000 ships of biomechanical horror waiting for the final assault on the refugee worlds. Admiral Song Hae-jin stood on the bridge of the Incheon, watching the tactical display with grim determination. The human fleet had arrived to find the alien coalition forces already broken and scattered. What had once been proud warships were now debris fields, the few surviving alien vessels huddled behind the inner planets, too damaged to fight. Enemy. Fleet composition is unlike anything in our databases, reported Commander Shin Hae-won from the intelligence station. The ships appear to be grown rather than built. They're adapting their formations even as we watch. Numbers? Song asked. Over 10,000 confirmed contacts, ranging from fighter-sized drones to battleships larger than anything we've ever built. Hae-won paused. Admiral, our entire fleet is outnumbered 3-1. Song nodded calmly. She had expected this. Signal Fleet Admiral Yoon, begin Chaos Protocol. On the command ship Defiant Dawn, Yoon Tae-sung received the order with a cold smile. Chaos Protocol was his own creation, a battle plan so insane that no logical mind would ever expect it. Instead of maintaining formation and fighting like a proper fleet, the human ships would scatter like startled fish and attack from every direction at once. All ships, implement random dispersal pattern 7, Yoon ordered. No ship follows the same vector as another. No ship attacks the same target twice in a row. Make them think we're completely insane. Sir, his tactical officer asked nervously. Aren't we actually being insane? Probably, Yoon replied. That's what makes it work. The human fleet exploded outward like a bursting firework. Ships that should have stayed in formation went spinning off in all directions. Battleships dove toward enemy positions at impossible angles. Frigates attacked targets 10 times their size. Converted cargo ships used mining lasers to slice through enemy hulls. The Devourer fleet, which had been advancing in perfect geometric formations, suddenly found itself facing chaos. Their collective intelligence tried to analyze the human attack patterns and failed. There were no patterns. Every human ship was doing something different, something unpredictable. Captain Lee Dae-ho pushed his ship into a spiraling dive toward a massive Devourer command vessel. The enemy ship was easily 5 times the size of the Defiant Dawn, covered in weapons that could vaporize his ship with a single shot. But Dae-ho wasn't planning to fight it conventionally. Activate the experimental. Phasing drive, he ordered. Take us right through their shields. Captain, the drive has only been tested 3 times, warned Park Jin-woo from engineering. We don't know if it will work in combat. Then we'll find out together, Dae-ho replied. The Defiant Dawn began to shimmer and fade, becoming ghost-like, as the alien phasing technology bent reality around it. The ship passed through the Devourer's energy shields like they didn't exist and materialized inside the enemy vessel's docking bay. Boarding party, go! Dae-ho shouted. Sergeant First Class Oh Min-ho led 20 Marines through the ship's airlocks and into the alien vessel. What they found inside was like stepping into a nightmare. The corridors were alive, pulsing with veins of dark energy. The walls shifted and changed as they moved, trying to trap the intruders. Stay together, Min-ho ordered. These things are trying to confuse us. Follow the compass headings, not what your eyes tell you. The Marines fought their way through corridors that bent space and time, using urban warfare tactics adapted for an environment that defied physics. They used breaching charges to blow through walls that tried to heal themselves. They set up crossfires in hallways that led to impossible directions. Meanwhile, Commander Jang Mi-young was playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek with Devourer hunter ships. Her stealth frigate Silent Thunder appeared and disappeared like a ghost, striking at enemy vessels and vanishing before they could respond. Target acquired, her weapons officer reported. Devourer heavy cruiser, bearing 27 Mark IV. Fire. Torpedo spread, then immediate phase shift, Mi-young ordered. The Silent Thunder fired 6 quantum torpedoes and immediately became invisible. The Devourer cruiser, trying to track its attacker, found itself shooting at empty space, while the torpedoes tore through its hull. By the time the enemy ship realized what had happened, the Silent Thunder was already lining up its next attack. But the battle was far from one-sided. Human ships were dying, their crews fighting desperately against an enemy that seemed to learn and adapt with every engagement. The converted civilian vessels were taking the worst losses, their improvised armor no match for Devourer weapons. It was then that Dr. Han So-young made a discovery that changed everything. Working from her laboratory ship at the edge of the battle, she had been analyzing the enemy's biosignatures when she noticed something impossible. Admiral Song, she called over the communication system. I need to speak with you immediately. Doctor, we're in the middle of a battle, Song replied tersely. That's exactly why this can't wait. Admiral, the Devourers aren't evil. They're refugees too. The statement was so unexpected that Song felt her mind reel. Explain. I've been analyzing their ship construction and biological patterns. These aren't conquerors, Admiral. They're a species fleeing ecological collapse on their homeworlds. They consume other worlds because they've forgotten how to live any other way. They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to survive. The implications hit Song like a physical blow. If the Devourers were also refugees, then this wasn't a war of good versus evil. It was a tragedy of desperate species fighting for survival. Can we communicate with them? Song asked. I think so. But we need to stop fighting long enough to try. Song made a decision that would have been impossible for any military commander trained in conventional warfare. In the middle of the largest space battle in human history, she ordered a ceasefire. All human ships, cease fire. Repeat, cease fire immediately. The order caused confusion throughout the fleet, but the human ships obeyed. The Devourers, surprised by the sudden end to combat, also stopped shooting. In the brief quiet that followed, Kim Soo-jin worked frantically to establish communication with the enemy fleet. Using translation protocols developed from the refugee signals, she managed to open a channel to what appeared to be a Devourer command ship. The voice that answered was unlike anything they had expected. Instead of the harsh tones of a conqueror, it sounded tired, almost sad. "Why do you stop fighting?" the voice asked. "We must consume to survive. You must die so we can live. This is the way." "No," Soo-jin replied, her voice steady despite her fear. "This is not the way. There is another path." For a long moment, space was silent, except for the drift of debris and the glow of damaged ships. Then the Devourer voice spoke again, and this time it carried something that might have been hope. "Show us." The meeting took place aboard a neutral station hastily assembled from parts of damaged ships. Admiral Song Hye-jin sat across from the being who called itself Deep Current of Sorrow, a Devourer commander whose biomechanical form pulsed with dark energy. Between them sat representatives of a dozen alien species, all former enemies now trying to understand each other. "Your worlds died because you consumed them," said Bright Thought Across Stars, the luminary leader. Its crystalline form flickered with angry light. "How can we trust you?" Deep Current's response came through translation systems that struggled with concepts no species had words for. "We consumed because we knew no other way. Our home star grew cold. Our worlds froze. We learned to take life from other places to save our own. We forgot how to create, only how to take." Dr. Han So-young leaned forward, her tablet full of biological data. "The Devourer ships aren't just vessels. They're mobile ecosystems. They've been carrying the genetic material of thousands of worlds, trying to preserve life even as they destroy it." "Preserve?" Warsinger Thakmore's forearms gestured in disbelief. "They destroyed my homeworld. Billions died. But they saved samples," So-young explained gently. "DNA, seeds, cultural data. They've been trying to find a way to restore what they took, but they lost the knowledge of how to do it." Admiral Song studied the data on her own tablet. The picture it painted was heartbreaking. The Devourers had been refugees for so long they had forgotten they were refugees. Generation after generation, they had consumed worlds to survive, carrying the ghosts of dead civilizations with them but unable to bring them back to life. "There's something else," said Commander Shin Hai-wan from her position at the intelligence station. "Long-range sensors are picking up massive distortions in space behind the Devourer fleet. Whatever destroyed their homeworlds is still spreading. It's an expanding zone of dead space that kills everything it touches." The room fell silent as the full scope of the crisis became clear. The Devourers weren't just running from their own mistakes. They were fleeing from something that was killing space itself, and it was following them toward inhabited galaxy. "How long do we have?" Song asked. "At current expansion rate, the dead zone will reach this system in 18 months. It will reach Earth in less than a century." Captain Lee Dae-ho had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now he spoke up. "We need to stop running and start fixing things. All of us together." "Fix what?" Deep Current asked. "How do you repair dead space? How do you restore consumed worlds?" "We learn," Dae-ho said simply. "Humans are good at learning. We're good at fixing things that seem impossible to fix." Fleet Admiral Yoon Tae-sung nodded slowly. "The captain is right. We've been thinking about this as a military problem, but it's not. It's an engineering problem. The biggest engineering problem in galactic history. What followed was the most ambitious project any species had ever attempted. Captain Nam Woo-jin led the effort to convert Devourer harvest ships into restoration platforms. The same biomechanical systems that had consumed entire ecosystems were redesigned to rebuild them. The work was incredibly difficult. Human engineers had to learn to think like living machines. Devourer technicians had to remember skills their species had forgotten for millennia. Alien scientists shared technologies that had never been combined before. "The key," explained Park, Jinwoo, during one of the technical briefings, is that we're not just rebuilding worlds. We're teaching the Devourer ships to remember how to create instead of consume. The first test came on a dead world in the outer system. The planet had been stripped bare by Devourer harvesters years earlier, leaving nothing but rock and toxic atmosphere. A converted harvest ship approached the world like a giant seed pod, its biomechanical hull opening to release clouds of restoration nanites. What happened next amazed everyone watching. The nanites didn't just clean the atmosphere and rebuild the soil. They used the genetic information stored in the Devourer ship's memory banks to recreate the planet's original ecosystem. Plants that had been extinct for decades began growing again. Oceans filled with life forms that had been preserved only as data. "It's working," breathed Dr. So Young from the observation deck. "The world is coming back to life." But the real breakthrough came when Lieutenant Colonel Bei Yu Jin made an unexpected discovery. While working with joint human-alien Devourer teams on the restoration project, she noticed that the former enemies were starting to think differently. "They're not three separate groups anymore," she reported to Admiral Song. "They're becoming something new. The humans bring creativity, the aliens bring logic, and the Devourers bring the ability to preserve and restore life. Together, they can do things none of them could do alone." The success of the first restoration led to more ambitious projects. Entire star systems that had been consumed were brought back to life. The expanding fleet of restoration ships became a mobile civilization, moving from dead world to dead world and bringing them back to life. Commander Jang Mi-young adapted her stealth technology for a new purpose. Instead of hiding warships, she created invisible research stations that could study the expanding dead zone without being detected. What her teams discovered gave them their first real hope. "The dead zone isn't natural," she reported to the combined command staff. "It's the result of a massive ecological collapse that created a chain reaction. But chain reactions can be stopped if you know how to break the chain." The solution required the combined efforts of all three groups. Human creativity provided the initial concept. Alien science refined it into a workable plan. Devourer biotechnology made it possible to implement on the scale needed. They called it Project Lazarus, and it was insane even by human standards. Using modified Devourer ships as carriers, they would seed the edge of the dead zone with specialized organisms designed to consume the death energy and convert it back into life-supporting space. The first test was conducted by Captain Daeho, personally, leading a small fleet to the very edge of the dead zone. As they released their cargo of life seeds into the killing emptiness, everyone held their breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, impossibly, the dead zone began to shrink. The life seeds were working, eating the death and converting it back into normal space. Stars that had been going dark began to shine again. 1 year later, Admiral Song stood on the observation deck of the flagship Incheon, now the command ship of the largest mobile civilization in galactic history. Around her, thousands of ships moved through space carrying not weapons but hope. The dead zone was retreating. Consumed worlds were being restored. Species that had been enemies were now working together to heal the galaxy. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication station. "We're receiving distress calls from the Andromeda Galaxy. Multiple species requesting assistance against something they call the Void Plague." Song smiled. Earth's fleet had become something greater than anyone had imagined. They were no longer just defenders of humanity or even of their own galaxy. They had become the galaxy's healers, carrying hope across the void to anyone who needed it. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Set course for Andromeda. Time to show another galaxy what legends can do when they work together." The fleet of legends had become the fleet of hope, and their greatest adventures were just beginning.